You think you know tough? You think your species has what it takes to stand at the top of the food chain? Well, let me tell you something that'll crack that certainty right down the middle. This is the story of how one human girl made the entire Galactic Combat League question everything they thought they knew about warfare, dignity, and why you should never, ever underestimate a species that evolved on a death world. The betting pools across 17 systems had reached astronomical figures by the time I stepped into the observation deck of the Crimson Spy Arena. My name is Vexa Cthulhu, third caste warrior of the Gentari Dominion, and I'd seen 342 sanctioned combat matches in my career as a fight coordinator. Not once had I witnessed odds this lopsided, 8-1 against the human. I adjusted my secondary optical membrane to get a better view of the prep chambers below. On the left side, Kragg the Immovable prepared himself with the ceremonial efficiency of a seasoned killer. 4 meters of dense muscle, bone plating that could deflect plasma rounds, and a reputation for leaving opponents in medical stasis for months. The Varanthi champion had demolished every challenger in his weight class for 6 consecutive seasons. His species had evolved on a high-gravity world where the atmosphere was thick enough to swim through, and it showed in every rippling movement of his reinforced physiology. On the right side, the human sat cross-legged on a bench, eating something from a crinkly package. I blinked all 3 eyes in succession, certain I was misinterpreting the scene. She was eating chips. I think the translation matrix called them crunchy, salty, nutritionally questionable wafers of processed vegetation. Her name was Tessa Ramirez, age 24 standard cycles, and according to her file she'd been a regional mixed martial arts champion on Earth before signing up for the Galactic Combat League trials. Is she actually snacking right now? Kulix, my assistant, buzzed beside me. His compound eyes reflected the arena lights in 1,000 fractured images. Kragg is performing the ritual of certain death, and she's having a casual meal. Apparently, I tapped my data slate, reviewing her statistics again. 68 kilograms, 1.7 meters tall, no natural armor plating, no venom glands, no reinforced skeletal structure. She looked like she might blow away in a stiff breeze, yet here she was, about to face someone who'd once torn the arm off a Krella berserker and beaten him unconscious with it. The human crumpled her empty chip bag, tossed it perfectly into a waste receptacle 3 meters away, and stood up. She wore a simple black combat suit, flexible and unrestricted. Her dark hair was tied back in a practical knot. When she stretched, rolling her shoulders and neck, I heard several of her joints pop audibly through the audio feeds. That noise, Quillix shuddered. Is her skeleton breaking? Apparently it's normal for them. Nitrogen bubbles in the synovial fluid. That sounds horrifying. Most things about humans are. The pre-fight commentary was already underway in the main broadcast, and I could hear the legendary announcer Threxnell warming up the crowd across multiple language channels. His booming voice carried the rehearsed excitement of someone who'd narrated 10,000 battles. Beings and sentients from across the spiral arm, welcome to tonight's main event. In one corner we have the undisputed crusher of bones, the avalanche of agony, the Varanthi titan, who needs no introduction. Kragg the Immovable. The crowd's roar shook the observation deck. Kragg raised all 4 arms in acknowledgement, his mandibles spreading in what passed for a smile among his kind. Each of his primary limbs ended in hands that could crush durasteel. And in the opposite corner, making her premiere in the Galactic Combat League, from the wild frontier world of Earth, standing at a mere 1.7 meters and weighing in at just 68 kilograms, Tessa Ramirez. The crowd's response was mixed. Some cheering, mostly jeering, and a substantial amount of confused clicking from species whose auditory organs struggled with the pronunciation of human names. I watched Tessa walk into the arena with a casual stride that suggested she was heading to a workout session, rather than potential dismemberment. She waved at the crowd with one hand, grinning. The confidence was either admirable or suicidal. I hadn't determined which yet. Fighters, to your marks, Threxnell commanded. The arena was a circular platform 50 meters in diameter, surrounded by an energy barrier that could withstand antimatter explosions. The floor was standard grip composite, neutral territory with no environmental advantages, pure combat, pure skill, pure survival. Kragg took his position, settling into a wide stance that spoke of immovable defense and devastating counterattacks. His species had a saying that translated roughly to "the mountain does not chase the wind, it waits and breaks it." Tessa bounced on her toes a few times, loose and relaxed. She raised her fists in a guard position that looked almost quaint compared to Kragg's massive reach advantage. "Begin!" The activation chime rang out, and the match timer started. Kragg didn't charge. He was too experienced for that. Instead, he advanced with measured steps, cutting off angles, forcing Tessa toward the edge of the platform. Standard strategy against a smaller, presumably faster opponent: limit their mobility, then crush them. Tessa circled left, her footwork light and precise. She was studying him, I realized, looking for patterns, weaknesses, anything exploitable. "She's going to get obliterated the moment he catches her," Quillix muttered. "This is hard to watch." Kragg feinted with his upper right arm, a testing jab that would have crumpled most opponents if it connected. Tessa slipped it by millimeters, not bothering to block, just redirecting her head with minimal movement. The efficiency was notable. No wasted energy, no panic, just smooth evasion. The Varanthi champion tried again, a combination this time: upper left jab, lower right hook, upper right straight punch. It was a blur of armored death, each strike capable of pulverizing bone. Tessa ducked, pivoted, and stepped inside his guard. For a fraction of a second, she was directly beneath his reach, in the dead zone where his size became a disadvantage. Her elbow snapped up into the soft joint of his lower left arm, not hard enough to damage but precise enough to disrupt his balance. Then she was gone, sliding back out of range before he could grab her. Kragg grunted, surprised. He shook his arm, mandibles clicking in irritation. "Did she just hit him?" Quillix asked, incredulous. "She did. Right in the articulation point. Clever." The crowd was stirring now, sensing something unexpected. The odds hadn't changed yet, but the atmosphere had shifted from certainty to curiosity. Kragg advanced again, more aggressive this time. His pride had been pricked, and Varanthi warriors were notoriously sensitive about being struck first in combat. It was a cultural thing, tied to honor and dominance hierarchies. He unleashed a proper assault this time, all four arms working in coordinated devastation. High, low, middle, sweeping strikes that covered every angle. It was the technique that had won him championships. The reason he was called immovable. You couldn't get past that. Defense turned offense. Except Tessa did. She wove through his attacks like water flowing around stones, her movements economical and perfectly timed. Every dodge was measured in millimeters, conserving energy, letting his momentum work against him. When she struck, it was surgical. A palm strike to his elbow joint, a quick kick to his knee, a knuckle jab to his throat plate. Not hard enough to hurt, but right on a nerve cluster that made him cough. "Impossible," I breathed. "She's too small, too light. The physics don't work." "Apparently they do," Quillix replied, his voice tinged with something between awe and horror. Kragg was getting frustrated, which made him sloppy. He committed to a massive overhead slam with all four arms, intending to simply smash this annoying creature into paste. The strike was powerful enough to crack the arena floor. Tessa wasn't there when it landed. She'd rolled between his legs, came up behind him, and delivered a devastating kick to the back of his knee joint. The same knee she'd been targeting periodically throughout the match. The one she'd been systematically weakening with precise, accumulating damage. Kragg dropped to one knee with a roar of pain and rage. The crowd went absolutely silent. Before the Varanthi champion could recover, Tessa was on his back, her arms snaking around his thick neck in what my database identified as a rear naked choke. But that wasn't quite right. She'd modified it, adjusting for his different physiology, finding the blood vessels despite his bone plating, applying pressure with a technique that was part art and part science. Kragg thrashed, all four arms reaching back to grab her, but she'd positioned herself in his blind spot, using his own body as a shield against his strength. He tried to stand, to slam himself backward into the arena floor and crush her, but his damaged leg wouldn't support the explosive movement needed. 10 seconds passed. 15. Kragg's movements became sluggish. His mandibles opened and closed weakly. 20 seconds. The Immovable fell forward, unconscious. The arena erupted in chaos. Half the crowd was cheering in disbelief. The other half was screaming about fixed matches and impossible results. Betting terminals across the sector were probably melting down from the sudden payout calculations. Tessa released her hold, rolled off Kragg's back and stood up. She wasn't even breathing hard. She walked to the center of the arena, looked up at the observation deck where I was standing, and gave a casual two-fingered salute. Then she smiled. It was the smile of someone who'd never doubted the outcome for a second. The medical bay beneath the Crimson Spire arena smelled of antiseptic and wounded pride. I stood outside the recovery chamber where Kragg was slowly regaining consciousness, watching through the transparent viewport as 3 medical technicians hovered around him with neural stimulators and regeneration fields. Quillix floated beside me, his wings vibrating with residual excitement. The network feeds are completely overloaded. Every major outlet across 12 sectors is running highlights. They're calling it the upset of the century. Century, I snorted, which came out as a wet clicking sound through my respiratory vents. Try millennium. The betting syndicates are threatening lawsuits. Apparently 17 high-ranking officials from the Voranthi Confederation put their entire fortunes on Kragg. Ouch. Indeed. Through the viewport, Kragg's eyes flickered open. All 6 of them, blinking in confused sequence as his brain rebooted from forced unconsciousness. His mandibles twitched, clicking softly. One of the medical techs, a spindly arachnoid with excellent bedside manner, leaned in with a reassurance scanner. Easy, champion. You're in medical. The fight is over. Kragg's voice came out rough, filtered through his translator implant. Did I win? The silence that followed was physically painful to witness. The medical tech's multiple eyes shifted nervously. Ah, well, you see, did I win? Kragg pushed himself up on his upper arms, ignoring the protests of the monitoring equipment. No, champion. You lost consciousness 23 seconds into the hold, technical submission. I watched the information process through Kragg's concussed brain. His expression cycled through confusion, disbelief, anger, and finally settled on something that looked disturbingly like respect. The human, he said slowly. She was real, very real. I thought I was hallucinating. How does something that small hit that hard? She didn't hit hard, I interjected through the intercom, deciding to spare him the full embarrassment. She hit smart. Every strike was calculated to weaken specific points. Your knee, your joints, your nerve clusters. By the time she applied the choke, you'd been systematically dismantled. Kragg processed this in silence. Then to everyone's surprise, he laughed. It was a deep, rumbling sound that made the medical equipment rattle. A warrior's warrior. The ancestors would approve. Where is she? Training facility, last I checked. Apparently winning a match against the league champion wasn't enough exercise for her day. Of course it wasn't, Kragg muttered, laying back down. Tell me something, coordinator. How many other humans are coming? That question had been keeping me awake during my rest cycle. According to the latest registration data, 47 have signed up for next season's trials. The league is going to be very different, isn't it? Catastrophically so. I left Kragg to his recovery and headed toward the training facilities, Quillix trailing behind. The corridors were packed with fighters, journalists and assorted hangers-on, all buzzing about the match. I heard Tessa's name repeated in at least 19 different languages and phonetic structures. Some species physically couldn't pronounce human names, so she'd already earned nicknames. The Breaker, the Phantom, Small Death. My favorite was from a Claugian merchant who'd apparently won enough credits to buy a small moon. He was calling her the one who makes large things fall down. Direct. I appreciated that. The training facility was a massive complex designed to accommodate every type of warrior physiology in the league. Gravity wells, atmospheric chambers, combat simulators, Everything a professional fighter needed to maintain their edge. I found Tessa in one of the standard gravity rooms, working what humans called a heavy bag, a cylindrical weight suspended from chains that fighters struck repeatedly for conditioning. She was drenched in sweat, her fists wrapped in protective tape, methodically hammering the bag with combinations that flowed like water. Jab, cross, hook, uppercut, knee, elbow, repeat. Each strike landed with a satisfying thud that echoed through the chamber. "You know you already won, right?" I called out. "The training can wait until tomorrow." She didn't stop punching. Muscle memory doesn't take days off. Besides, I got sloppy in round 1. Took me way too long to set up that knee damage. Against a faster opponent, that's getting punished. "You defeated the champion in under 3 minutes. Could have been 2 if I'd committed earlier." She threw a spinning back fist that made the bag swing violently. "Plus, the adrenaline crash is real. Better to work through it than sit still." I approached cautiously, aware that this small creature had just rendered a 4-meter-tall warrior unconscious. "May I ask you some questions, for the official record?" "Sure." She switched to kicks now, her legs snapping out in precise arcs. "Shoot. Where did you learn to fight like that?" "Mixed martial arts gyms back on Earth. Started when I was 8. Boxing, Muay Thai, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, wrestling, a bit of everything." She paused to catch her breath, wiping sweat from her forehead. "Earth's kind of obsessed with combat sports. Always has been." "Your planet trains children to fight?" "Some of them, yeah. I mean, it's not mandatory or anything, but lots of cultures have martial traditions going back thousands of years. It's art, sport, self-defense, philosophy, all mixed together." Quillix buzzed forward nervously. "But you're so fragile. No offense intended, but your species lacks natural armor, venom, enhanced strength, redundant organs." "We've got brains," Tessa interrupted, finally stopping her workout. She grabbed a towel and a water container, taking a long drink. "And pattern recognition, and the ability to learn basically any fighting style and adapt it. You know what humans are really good at? We're persistence hunters. We don't give up. Ever. You can be bigger, stronger, faster, doesn't matter. We'll find a way." "That's terrifying, Quillix. That's evolution on a death world, buddy." She grinned at him. That same casual confidence from the arena. "Earth doesn't play nice. We've got predators that can smell blood from kilometers away, weather patterns that can level cities, diseases that nearly wiped us out multiple times. Everything on our planet is either trying to kill us or compete with us for resources. So we got really good at problem solving under pressure." I made notes on my data slate, though my hands were shaking slightly. "The Galactic Combat League has been operating for 400 cycles. Most species send their absolute best warriors, genetic outliers, peak specimens." "Are you Earth's best?" Tessa laughed, a bright sound that seemed incongruous with the violence she was capable of. "Me? Nah, I'm pretty good, don't get me wrong, but there are definitely better fighters back home. I'm probably top 50 in my weight class on Earth, maybe top 30 on a good day." The implications of that statement hit me like a plasma bolt to the thorax. "You're saying there are 49 humans better than you at combat? At least, and that's just in my division. You've got heavyweights, lightweights, different martial arts specialties, military special forces, street fighters, who never went professional. Earth's got like 8 billion people, and a solid percentage of them know how to throw hands." Quillix made a sound like a deflating balloon. "The league is doomed." "Not doomed," Tessa corrected, stretching her arms overhead. "Just getting more competitive. Look, I'm not here to dominate or make everyone look bad. I'm here because fighting is what I love, and you guys offered me a chance to test myself against the best the galaxy has to offer." "That's exciting." Kragg was incredible, by the way. If he'd protected that knee better, the match would have gone very differently. "You targeted his weak point deliberately from the start," I said. "It wasn't a question." "Of course. That's fighting. You find the weakness and exploit it. Could be physical, could be tactical, could be psychological. Kragg fights like a fortress, all defense and overwhelming power. so I needed to crack the foundation before I could bring down the walls. She sat down on a bench, her breathing finally settling to normal. He'll adapt for the rematch, I'm sure. Probably work on mobility drills. Maybe switch up his stance. That's what makes this fun. The constant evolution. You want to fight him again?
Are you kidding?
That was the most fun I've had since leaving Earth. Your boy is tough. Those bone plates aren't just for show. I thought I broke my elbow on one of them. I studied her for a long moment, trying to reconcile this friendly, slightly goofy human with the efficient predator I'd watched in the arena. You're not what I expected. Yeah, I get that a lot. People see the smile and think I'm not serious about fighting, then they wake up asking who won. She winked, which was apparently a human gesture of humor. Look, I respect everyone I fight. I don't trash talk. I don't showboat unless it's strategic, and I always help my opponent up after the match. But when that timer starts, I'm there to win. That's the deal. The door to the training room hissed open, and a familiar massive form ducked through. Kragg, against medical advice, had apparently decided to leave his recovery chamber. He was moving stiffly, and one of his arms was in a regeneration sleeve, but his eyes were clear. Tessa stood up immediately, her posture shifting to something more alert. Not aggressive, just ready. Kragg approached slowly, stopping a respectful distance away. He extended his upper right arm, palm open in the Voranthi gesture of acknowledgement between warriors. I came to congratulate you properly. The medical staff said I asked who won. I apologize for not remembering the end of our match. Hey, no worries. Chokes cut blood flow to the brain. Totally normal to lose some memory around that time. Tessa stepped forward and, to my absolute shock, hugged his extended arm with both of hers. It was the human equivalent of a handshake, apparently. You put up an amazing fight. That combination in the second exchange almost got me. Almost is just another word for failure. Almost is how we learn. Next time you'll get me. Kragg's mandibles spread in what I now recognized as a smile. You assume there will be a next time. Oh, I'm counting on it. You're going to study that match footage, fix your mistakes, and come back scary as hell. Then I get to figure out how to beat version 2 of Kragg the Immovable. That's called Growth Champion. They stood there for a moment, the enormous Voranthi warrior, and the tiny human, and I realized I was witnessing something historic. Not just the upset victory, but the beginning of a fundamental shift in how the galaxy understood combat. Kragg nodded slowly. You honor the arena with your skill. I look forward to our rematch. Same here, big guy. Same here. As the Voranthi champion limped away, Tessa turned back to me with that ever-present grin. So, coordinator, when's the next fight? I've got momentum, and I'd hate to waste it. I checked my data slate, scrolling through the roster of fighters who'd been demanding a shot at the new sensation. Depends. There's a Krell Battlemaster, a Zenthraxian Shock Trooper, and something called a Morphid that I honestly don't understand how it's even legal to fight. They're all calling for matches. Sweet. Sign me up for all of them. All of them? Sure, why not? I came here to compete. Let's compete. Quilix buzzed nervously. Miss Ramirez, perhaps you should rest, strategize, allow your body to recover. I heal fast. Human thing. We're basically made of determination and spite. She grabbed her gear bag, slinging it over her shoulder. Besides, the best way to prove today wasn't a fluke, is to do it again, and again, and again until people stop betting against me. As I watched her leave the training facility whistling some tuneless human melody, I realized the Galactic Combat League had just encountered something it had never prepared for. Not a single exceptional warrior, but a representative of a species that turned warfare into art, competition into religion, and survival into a fundamental expression of their nature. Somewhere in the distance, Threxnell was already recording promos for the next match. The odds were dropping on human fighters across the betting networks, and 46 more humans were preparing to arrive next season, each one carrying thousands of years of combat evolution in their DNA. I pulled up the financial reports from tonight's match. The arena had made unprecedented profits. Viewership records had been shattered across 17 systems, and merchandise requests for Team Tessa gear were already flooding the production facilities. Quillix, I said quietly. I think we need to expand the medical facilities substantially. Already on it, Coordinator. Also, I'm investing my savings in human-proof armor. Just in case. Smart thinking. Through the facility windows, I could see Tessa jogging away toward the residential quarters, still full of energy despite fighting a champion and training for 2 hours afterward. She waved at a group of junior fighters who'd been watching her workout, and they scattered like frightened prey animals. The galaxy was about to learn what Earth had known for millennia. It's not the size of the fighter in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the fight. And humans. They were all fight,